moving forward, I do, like I said, expect him to be the left tackle of the future. I'm actually really excited about him. I think he has a ton of potential. I think he has a ton of upside for the Jets moving forward. Now, I have said that about other tackles that the Jets drafted in the first round, and I've been wrong about tackles the Jets have drafted in the first round, but I hopefully have a better than 0% hit rate on that take. The New York Jets are starting over in the 2025 offseason. We know that this is kind of a deciding point moving forward, and what happens with stuff like that is usually the past draft classes and past organizations mean a little bit less. It's just kind of the reality of the situation. The Jets are going to go in whatever direction the Jets go, and this draft class might be brought down by the wayside. I think when you look at this draft class as a whole, that's going to have the least amount of impact on Olu Fashanu, their first-round pick in the 2024 draft class, and the only guy in this draft class that I expect to definitely have a big role moving forward. And that's not to say that other names in this list won't be a big part of the 2025 season and moving forward, but he's a guy who, if you look at this season, he really did exactly what you expected him to do. You had already brought in aging tackles to kind of take over the starting job in the short term, and Olu Fashanu was expected to be the starter in the long term. He had a rough rookie season, I would say, overall. He was kind of used all over the offensive line. He's got his first action week 3 at right tackle, started the following 2 games, and then all of a sudden in week 9, he's playing right guard for a game, basically the entire game. And then in week 10, he had to scoot over to left tackle, his natural and expected position moving forward. So getting in time at right tackle, guard, and left tackle, that's tough for a rookie. But he's really gained the respect of the veterans in that locker room. Specifically, Morgan Moses has said very kind things about him. And moving forward, I do, like I said, expect him to be the left tackle of the future. I'm actually really excited about him. I think he has a ton of potential. I think he has a ton of upside for the Jets moving forward. Now, I have said that about other tackles that the Jets drafted in the first round, and I've been wrong about tackles the Jets have drafted in the first round, but I hopefully have a better than 0% hit rate on that take. Moving on to the Jets' next pick, Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky, a very small jitterbug wide receiver, was drafted by the Jets in the 3rd round, and I expected to have a bigger impact than he did. I mean, look, he's a smaller guy. He was a gadget guy. I think you expected him to very least be used or schemed up in some kind of playmaking way. He had a couple plays here and there, but with just 5 total touches on the season, 2 rushing and 3 receiving, his really biggest impact on the season was one of the bigger lowlights of the year for the Jets, was him just dropping the ball right before he goes across the goal line. This is a guy who I think about as a dude who could be kind of a casualty of this draft just because he doesn't have much positive film in year 1. Small guy learning the speed of the NFL, like that's not completely unheard of. But now we're going to have a new head coach, new GM, a new direction for this offense, for this entire team, and whether or not he's a part of those plans is kind of completely up to their discretion, and a 3rd round pick could very well easily just be forgotten about after just 1 season. That's kind of sad. That's the nature of the business. We'll know pretty quickly if that's the case. I would expect that a team would be willing to spend a 6th, 7th round pick on him if he becomes available via trade, and that would only happen if the Jets just aren't super interested in utilizing him. They would take the assets they can get for him. So we'll see. I hope that's not the case. I actually really like this guy coming into the draft. I thought he was kind of at the top of that next tier of wide receivers, and that's kind of where he went after, those high upside 2nd round wide receivers went. It kind of cooled off for the wide receiver position for a handful of picks, and then Malachi Corley was kind of the next guy that went. So it just is what it is. That's unfortunate. Moving on, the Jets went from wide receiver to running back with Braylon Allen in the 4th round. He was the youngest player taken in this draft. He pretty much earned that backup role very early on in camp, and he held on to it for most of the season. Was, short yardage guy, big, burly running back. His comp coming into the draft was A.J. Dillon, and after 1 year, A.J. Dillon feels right. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not an insult at all. I think Breece Hall will be kind of the centerpiece of that offense for the next couple years, whether or not he gains a bigger role in that offense. We'll see. Doesn't really feel like he earned it this year. I mean, obviously he was the number 2 running back on that team, but when Breece Hall went down for a couple weeks, we saw one of the later picks, Isaiah Davis, get in as well, and they both kind of shared time. It was pretty much a 50-50 split, if I'm not mistaken. So it just is what it is with Braylon Allen. I don't really know what to expect with him moving forward other than just high upside backup that he got in the 4th round. And that's pretty much it for this draft class. I mentioned Isaiah Davis, 5th round pick, got in at times when Breece Hall was out, like I said, primarily a special teams guy, but looks like a fairly good pick for what he was in the 5th round. And then Jordan Travis was another 5th round pick for him, quarterback out of Florida State, who obviously very famously had that injury, and that injury kept Florida State out of the playoffs. I'm a Florida State fan, and I am definitely still not salty. That's about it, guys. Hey, if you enjoy stuff like this, if you enjoy talking about past drafts, future drafts, draft prospects, all of those things, like and subscribe to this channel. It means a lot to me. It really helps me out a whole lot. That's all I got for the New York Jets.